our next panelist, Mayfereen Ryntathiang, president of Grassroots organization, Meghalaya, India. She's a social worker with more than a decade of committed work, having expertise in traditional culture, gender, and human rights. In 2016, she represented India at the United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues. Ms. Ryntathiang, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Jeff, and thank you, everyone. Kuble Yapi Baron, from the land of the clouds and home to three indigenous communities, the Garos, the Jaintia, and the Khasis of the most beautiful state in the country, Meghalaya, situated in the northeastern part of India. And thank you to the Secretariat of the Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues for setting up this platform to aid us voice on the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on the indigenous people. We all know, we are all aware that COVID-19 pandemic took us by storm. It took us by surprise. We were neither prepared nor equipped for such to happen, and especially our indigenous communities. In an indigenous state, small state like Meghalaya, located in the corner of one of the democratic countries of the world, India, we as a vulnerable community, already an indigenous community, especially women, children, elderly, the unemployed young people, the daily wage earners, the farmers, are faced with food insecurity, loss of jobs, and no protective equipment or gears to protect themselves and be safe and be secure. Economic activities, especially of the farmers and small-scale indigenous enterprises, were greatly impacted by the sudden outbreak. And this resulted in more violence against women, in more malnutrition, and definitely more depression. The nationwide lockdown disrupted the whole supply chain, making our indigenous communities, my indigenous communities, lose businesses or have had businesses shut down as a result of this. But I am presenting today no longer looking at the negative impacts of COVID-19, because I know we as an indigenous communities, if tap our values properly, strategize our opportunities properly, we can make it happen to mitigate the loss of businesses, to mitigate food insecurities, and most especially to tap on the local resources that we have. I am standing here and I'm speaking to you as a very proud indigenous woman, proud of the race that I come from, proud of the indigenous products that we produce, and most especially proud of the cultural heritage that I carry. And we can do so if we encourage, empower, and enhance the many indigenous entrepreneurs by adding value to their already existing products, to already existing agricultural products, crafts, and looms that we so proudly carry with. But unfortunately, during the pandemic, the entire pricing of either transport or I would say raw materials were price rocketed. And unfortunately, this again impacted our indigenous communities who, without knowing what the challenge was at hand, came to a standstill and look at this COVID-19 as a disaster. But here I am talking to you, looking at it as an opportunity as a wake-up call that we as indigenous communities can do it. How? By empowering our knowledge that we have, by empowering our wisdom that we have. We will have no more, I repeat, we will have no more of our indigenous resources be manipulated by external markets, by external forces, or by any corporates of that matter. That is enough. We have had enough of that. It's about time that we empower this knowledge, we empower this wisdom that we have, and convert that knowledge into what we call an economic entrepreneurship, economic activities of our own indigenous people. We can apply, we can learn these information from the forefathers, from the existing young people that we have. We can start learning or unlearn and observe and apply these learnings through these knowledge system that we have and create values for the markets in different platforms both at the local level, national, and definitely international level. We will need to discover these different customer segments for our indigenous products. Right now, as I'm talking to you, our indigenous products are being sold in the name of A, B, and C company, in the name of A, B, and C individual. Why not we start identifying our resources, our local resources, and identify it as our own? It is about time that we start identifying as our own. And yes, we are open to network. Indigenous communities are always open to network, be it with institutions, be it with individuals, or be it with business houses, but for a change on our terms. I believe that very much. And why we are doing this is because, unfortunately, indigenous communities are being looked at, unfortunately, as the backward communities of the country. And I'm talking especially in terms of India. We always look at tribals, at the backward communities, where we have reservations for education, reservations for job. I mean, sorry to say this, but we are not that. We have much more to offer to the country, and we have much more to offer from the local communities that we live in. And we can do that with an additional innovation. We can do that with basic strategy, that we can start training our own people, start mentoring our own people to use simple digital tools, to use simple techniques to meet the market demands and to meet the market resources that we can have. We can enable these local entrepreneurs, our indigenous entrepreneurs, enable farmers, enable local enterprises to make and start making a digital platform for all the products. But I repeat, without eroding our cultural heritage and our cultural identity. We will start training them. This, the COVID-19, is a wake-up call for all of us. We believe strongly, but unfortunately, we were sleeping all this while. I will not blame any corporates. I will not blame any government, but I will say we as indigenous communities have slept for too long. It's about time we rise up. It's about time we fight back. It's about time we claim what is ours. And yes, we need a proper strategy. We need a proper roadmap where we can frame different problems, different solutions, and different scientific surveys that we can do, scientific researches, where both the intellectual property rights of our communities and the indigenous rights of our communities are both not lost. And we provide this as an access to market and different networks. Yes, we can facilitate different programs through the different networks that we do, but we will make sure that the government is also responsible to act as a catalyst to make things happen, to start recognizing that indigenous communities of the Khasis, the Garos, and the Jaintias are not to be taken for granted for. And this value addition, this value chain for our products can build not only the indigenous communities that we have, but also start building markets, also start self-employment, also reduce the migration of our indigenous communities, indigenous young people to various urban cities of the country and look for, with due respect to my language, and look for petty jobs. Well, it's about time that we start recognizing what we have and be proud of that. And yes, with this presentation, I am looking at entrepreneurship as an enterprise solution, giving birth to business opportunities of our indigenous communities, and turning knowledge into money, but having satisfied and economically sound indigenous communities. This, if and when we work together with government and different corporates all over the country, all over the world, we can make things happen. We can generate this knowledge for deployment, value capture, and sustainable enterprises of the custodians and practitioners of our own indigenous practices. This is what I have to offer today. And this is what I think and I feel that we can work together as indigenous communities of the world, and most especially indigenous communities of the country of India. Thank you very much for your time.